Kia ora, no mai ki te whare. Welcome to The House, ko Louis Collins aho. If you've ever watched House of Cards, The West Wing, or even Veep, you'll be familiar with the role of Chief of Staff. In political dramas, it's often portrayed through familiar archetypes. The Machiavellian string puller lurking in the shadows, the honourable general enforcing discipline, or the steady hand keeping ambitious personalities and eager staff rowing in the same direction. But the role of Chief of Staff isn't confined to the corridors of the White House or 10 Downing Street. Here in New Zealand Parliament, our political parties rely on them too. Having the right person steering the ship can make or break a party's performance, and that's doubly true in an election year, which this year of course is. A Chief of Staff needs to have sharp political instincts and a deep understanding of how Parliament works, so they're often former MPs. One such person is the relatively new Chief of Staff for the Greens, Kevin Hague. After time away from elected office, he's back in Parliament, facing down a big year for the Greens as they look to change the government come November 7th. I sat down with Hague last year to unpack what the Chief of Staff role really involves, what it's like to be back in the parliamentary world, and how he's approaching the election campaign.
So I'm Kevin Hague and I'm the Chief of Staff for the Green Party in Parliament.
And you've been in Parliament before, haven't you?
Yeah, I was an MP from 2008 to 2016, so it's a familiar environment in some ways, but also there's a lot that's changed in the years.
What has changed?
The things that I notice are a lot more security around the place, and I think the reasons for that are pretty obvious. A lot of the rules about how we do things have changed. I guess that's different speakers' directions and so forth. For the Greens, of course, we've got more MPs, and that means there's more staff that I need to manage.
Makes your job harder.
Yeah, bigger team, and a group of MPs who are pretty ambitious for what we might be able to achieve at the next election.
Now, when people think of the Chief of Staff role, when they hear that, they probably think of the West Wing or House of Cards, the equivalent role at Downing Street or the White House, and that they're sort of like a controller of all the chaos. How much of your role is that, putting out fires and that kind of thing?
So far, it hasn't been a lot of that, but that's my mental model as well. Leo McGarry from the West Wing, or I'm told that Malcolm Tucker actually wasn't the Chief of Staff; he was the comms director. But a bit of that. For the mental model I actually have is more like the chief executive of an organisation or a company. Where the MPs are both the board of the company, they are the people to whom I report, but also the key clients of our work. So I'm reporting to them, but also ensuring that the team is kind of meeting their needs as clients. Our job is to support the work that the MPs do.
How much of your work is going into strategy, especially looking forward to the election next year?
Yeah, I mean it's hard to know what that will be in the over the course of a normal 12-month period, but in the brief time that I've been back here, there's certainly a significant amount of support that I'm providing for MPs to work out their political strategy for the year ahead.
How much of that management is proactive versus reactive?
So it's the staff that I'm managing, and you want that to be all proactive, but meeting the needs of MPs is kind of where the proactive reactive question comes in. And the Green Party caucus, I think, has always been pretty good at being forward-looking. What is it we're trying to achieve as a group? And let's be trying to set the agenda as opposed to just respond to someone else's agenda. And I think, you can't completely avoid the reactive stuff. We have to be relevant on the issues of the day, and sometimes those issues are effectively determined by someone else. So we need to be in those debates, but I reckon we want at least half of the work that we do to be proactive, us giving effect to our plans.
So what does an average day look like for you in the office?
My days so far have been, when I'm in Wellington, because of course I live actually in Mawhera, Greymouth. So some of the time I'm working from there. But on a sitting day or when I'm at work in Wellington, I'll typically be here round about 8 in the morning. And I'll have pretty much back-to-back meetings through until late afternoon. And then typically later in the evening, people don't want to have scheduled meetings. So that will often be my opportunity to respond to the email that's come in during the day, work on the papers that I've said I'll work on during the various meetings I've had in the day, that sort of thing. And I mean, sometimes I'll get away, 6 o'clock, something like that, but sort of never really earlier than that. But sometimes it's significantly later than that. But I don't have to be here until 10 like the MPs do.
Obviously, it's hard for you to say because you're still quite fresh. Is there a certain dynamic of assembling a perfect team, especially looking forward to the election? You know, you're almost like a coach of a rugby team or football team.
It's funny, I've back when I was an MP, I often used the sports team analogy, thinking about the All Blacks approaching the Rugby World Cup. You're not trying to be at your peak performance all the way through. You're practicing things. You're seeing how various tactics will go. So there's definitely an element of the role that's like that. My job is supporting the MPs. So they're effectively the team that's on the field needing to deliver. So I do a little bit of work alongside MPs, perhaps giving advice. That's certainly part of my role. But then ensuring that the work that the staff does is the best work that we possibly can be to give the MPs great advice and to give the best support that we can to help them with delivery, performance, and implementation of the plans that they've made.
So is your role a political role?
It's not. It's actually, you could, technically, I guess, someone could do this role and just be a great manager. Mm-hmm. I think in practice, that would be difficult. Part of what's brought me back here is that my values, my sense of belief in the Green Party's charter and vision, those are unwavering, and so the opportunity to participate in taking those forward again is a great one. And I think if I didn't have a commitment to the same values and vision that the MPs have and the party has, it would be difficult to do the job. Fundamentally, you're giving political advice, and how do you do that if you don't have a shared understanding of what we're trying to achieve? What I will say is the Green Party in Parliament, so the Green MPs, have a lot of engagement with Green Party branches and the national level organisations, and it's the sort of organisation where Green Party members will feel a direct connection to the MPs that they have in the House. And of course that puts a lot of pressure and demands on the time of MPs, but that's what they signed up for, and it's what as a party we believe in, that there should be appropriate decision making, and that leads to a kind of a flat democratic structure. We've got probably the most democratic form of any political party, I would say.
Is there anything else that you'd comment on? I know you're still fresh in the role, so it's hard to say, but anything else you'd want people to know about what the Chief of Staff role specifically for the Greens is all about?
The thing that I would probably say is that, using that chief executive kind of analogy, that the role. If you're the chief executive in an organisation, you've got to deal with the unpleasant stuff as well as the great stuff. So far, there's been nothing unpleasant.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's right. Part of what I'm trying to do here is bring some disciplines that I have, both from my time as an MP, where I was the caucus strategist, but also from my time as chief executive of other organisations. To bear and think about, okay, how is our time collectively being used? Are we using it to the maximum effect? And if we're not, well, let's change that up. It's that now overused Peter Blake thought of, what makes the boat go faster? Because if what you're doing doesn't make the boat go faster, don't do it. And that's how I approach this role too. There's an infinite amount of work that could potentially be done. We have to prioritise, and we need to match our kind of time and effort allocation to whatever the highest priorities are.
That was Kevin Hague, Chief of Staff for the Green Party. I te whakaronga koe ki te whare. You've been listening to The House, a program made with funding from Parliament's Office of the Clerk. Mātua.